Hello, we're live on YouTube. Welcome to the quick take. Fulham nil, Everton nil. The first 0-0 in the Premier League with fans since I think Aston Villa in 2012 when it finished 0-0 at the Cottage. Dan Cooke alongside me. A point gained or two dropped?
Both, to an extent, I guess. I think a point gained because every point, is useful, especially as, we've mentioned it on the podcast recently, that given the situation we've got ourselves in, any points we pick up now keep us ahead of the curve and they keep us ahead of that relegation zone. However, given how we played, and especially in that second half, how Everton sat off us, it did feel like 3 points were there for the taking. So it's a shame we didn't get them.
A really strong performance from Fulham, I thought, in both halves. And we nullified Everton to an extent where they had an early spell where the first 5-10 minutes they were knocking on the door, and Leno made a good save from, I believe it was Iwobi or Gordon, actually, I can't remember.
It was Gray.
Andre Gray. And that was a good start from Everton, but then Fulham sort of threw out the blocks, really. And I have to say, in that first half, Anthony Robinson is an absolute asset down that left-hand side, on the overlap, running at pace. He's so good. But what did you take from that first half that was positive?
Positives, I guess, is that, again, we were creating chances. We were playing really nice football, I thought. Again, we were putting together lovely passages of play. I think we looked the better side sort of overall, but I think it's important not to take away from the fact that Everton did have chances, especially early on. But even as the half wore on, Tarkowski had a great chance from a ball that came into the penalty area, and he probably should score. So, I mean, positives, they start to sound quite the same week after week, but good in possession and going forward, but are leaving a little bit desired at the back, I think. And as you say with Anthony Robinson, I thought he did really well because Tim Ream struggled early doors. Dominic Calvert-Lewin running those channels. He's such a physical player, both quick, but also really good in the air. And it seemed like Tim was struggling a little bit, and Anthony Robinson helped him out a few times. And there was a great block, probably about 5 or 10 minutes in, that Anthony Robinson made, flying across. I didn't think anyone was going to be able to close down that shot.
Gordon hit that quite sweetly as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he hit it really well. I don't think Leno would have had a chance if it was on target. So overall, I think there are more positives than negatives. I don't know what you think, JK.
No, I'm pleased. I'm pleased at the consistency that we're playing. We're playing at such a high level, of course, the Premier League, but it's such a high level in terms of our performance. It's incredible. The intensity. I think that's the one thing I've realised. My vantage point at Craven Cottage this season is slightly different, and the intensity we play at is absolutely outstanding. It really is Premier League level. Now, I don't know whether people would have seen that last season, albeit opposition was less than obviously we're playing this season, but it's just players like Robinson and Paulinho and Harrison Reed just constantly chasing and winning and overturning the ball, and it's just brilliant to watch. It's so exciting. And every Fulham game this season at Craven Cottage, bar Newcastle at home, has been incredibly frantic, played at an incredibly frantic pace, apart from maybe when we were 2-0 up against Villa, it was slightly slow. But the only slow moments you ever see Fulham play at home is when we're just sort of trying to play out from the back, where you have 5 or 6 passes between Leno, Diop, Ream, just trying to, sort of maybe even just conserve energy because of the intensity we do play at. I'm really impressed. Pickford made some really, really good saves, 3 in about a minute and a half, I think, to deny Fulham. And that was as close as we came in the first half, but a really good spell of saves from England's number one.
Yeah, there was the one that I thought was the best, and I thought it's an insane save. It's ludicrous. Is the one from Willian on the turn. I watched it back this morning, and when I was at the ground, you're like, oh, that's a good save. But when you actually watch it, it's come at him so quickly from such a short distance, and to get a fingertip on it, I don't know how he's done it. I thought it was a strong performance from Jordan Pickford overall. I thought his kicking was good, especially in the first half. You can tell that he's got a high level of confidence at the moment. I think he's in a good place, and you can see that with him because when he's in a good place, I think he's communicates a lot. He was speaking to the defence a lot. He was marshalling them, and yeah, we've just come up against a really, really England's number one keeper and come up against him on one of his best days. We just couldn't put it in the net. It's going to happen every now and then. But as we were saying beforehand, I think the key is that both of us were feeling as that game sort of started to peter out. We were like, oh God, I hope that Neil Maupay doesn't come on here and bury the winner. And maybe in years gone by, he would have done. But
Mm.
it's so nice that, we haven't done that. And to come away with a point, given what could have happened, I think we've got to take it.
Yeah, I think as the second half grew on, I was sort of thinking to myself, if they bring on Mopé and they bring on McNeil, of which they did, they're going to grow into this and probably have a bit of an onslaught in the last 10 minutes. It just didn't happen. And that was due to, like I said, like the overturns in midfield every time. Even that one where Issa Diop running back makes a tackle, Paulinho double tackle on the hour mark, just unbelievable work rate and commitment to the cause. And that's what pleased me most. And I was speaking to a couple of Everton fans at the pub after the game, and they were really disappointed in the way they applied themselves in the second half and sort of rolled over for us. And they would have come into this maybe on paper thinking they were going to be the dominant team, the ones looking to create to score the winner. It just didn't happen. Fulham were just relentless. And yeah, this is the first time we failed to score at home this season, but it's 2 home clean sheets in a row. And we're 7th in the table. We're 3 points above Liverpool because they lost to Leeds yesterday. Absolutely extraordinary. And obviously now we've got Manchester United and Manchester City to come the next 2 games. And, no one would be surprised to pick up 0 points from now until the World Cup. But if someone told every Fulham fan to be on 19 points going into the World Cup, everyone would have taken it. And especially above Liverpool for now. So fantastic. Just on the second half, and actually before that, Mitrovic, was it a red? Was it an orange?
I think this is one of those that definitely was made worse by it being slowed down. Because actually, when it happened, I mean, I'm a long way away from it at the back of the hammy end, but when it happened, it was sort of quite innocuous, and you couldn't really tell much had happened other than the reaction from Idrissa Gueye. And I think that was the key. I don't think Mitro's gone in with any level of intent there. He's on the stretch. Instantly, as soon as he does it, he turns around and apologizes. And I think ultimately a yellow card is fair. If it had been a red card, given on the pitch, it wouldn't have been overturned, which I guess is something to be said, that there's, an orange is probably the way to describe it, because whatever the referee decides there is probably what VAR recommends doing. He's got to be careful, and it's annoying because a moment like that, I think, brings up conversation within the press and in the media of, oh, this is the Mitrovic that we all know, the overly aggressive. But it wasn't that.
The one who hasn't had a red card in 9 or 10 years in the Premier League. I mean, come on.
Exactly. It wasn't aggressive. It wasn't malicious. It was just mistimed. And someone made a good point that I think if Mitro gets there first, Gueye's foot is actually pretty studs up, and he probably lands on Mitro's ankle. They've both gone in. It was a good 50-50, and he's just come off worse in it. And luckily it was a yellow, but ultimately I don't think that should be a red card in football anyway.
Another day, another ref, another team, another player. It could be a red. That's the problem with the consistency or the inconsistency of refereeing in the Premier League and VAR. But it wasn't like a lunge. And you're right. When they slowed it down, I was thinking, oh God, this could be trouble. Penalty on Willian, yes or no?
I was surprised it wasn't given, but I think part of it might have been like, I don't know why, but if you look around the Fulham players, the reaction wasn't massive. There weren't many appeals. Willian didn't appeal very much, and I don't know if that's counted against us. Again, I think usually I would expect to see that overturned by VAR, or even just given on the pitch, because you could quite clearly tell he didn't get any of the ball. But I'm not sure if I think that should be a penalty in general. It would have been very soft. Willian has sort of slightly dragged his foot into the defender, which he maybe has initiated the contact. But given the sort of the decisions you see going around, I was surprised we didn't get a penalty for that, and that would have obviously changed the game. And Marco's right, when he talks about consistency, because you do see softer pens than that. You absolutely do. If you look at Scott McTominay against Chelsea, that's a really, really soft pen with minimal contact. And this seemed a little bit more clear cut than that to me. But I can understand that it would have been soft. What do you think? I thought it probably should have been, but
I was surprised because when the referee initially sort of like halted play just there, were checking it, and I got really giddy because I was like, oh, this is going to be a penalty. Then I looked at the replay and I was like, oh, there's contact there a little bit. And then by the time I'd sort of watched the monitor and looked up, play was already continued. I was like, wait, hold on, they haven't given it. What the hell's going on? So I was a bit
they flew past it really quickly. Like the ball went out for a throw in, and it can't have been more than a couple of seconds until he restarted play, which I was surprising.
They don't check
I
it
thought
for very
you would
long,
have.
do they?
You would have looked at more than one angle for that one, I think, because there were a
Mm,
couple of angles where you can't see whether there's contact or not, and then there's a couple where you can. And I think
mm,
in that situation, take a minute, have a look, assess all
mm,
of the angles. This is a game that's in the balance. It's important to both teams.
mm.
Get the decisions right.
Yeah, you win some, you lose some with VAR. It's extraordinary how many decisions have gone our way this season and not gone our way as well.
Wall of justice.
Manchester,
It's the wall of justice.
yeah, honestly, and over a 38 game period, I feel like it will balance itself out. I'm a firm
I
believer. I say
agree.
it every week.
I agree.
Manchester City next. Are you heading up to the Etihad?
I am. I'm driving up because
Mm,
trains.
yeah. How are you feeling? I mean, no Haaland yesterday. Does it necessarily mean he's going to play on Saturday? I'm not sure.
I think he'll probably be back.
Mm,
I watched them against Leicester yesterday, and I think we should take some lessons from how Leicester played. I thought they defended very impressively.
mhm,
They sort of tried to control those half spaces at sort of on the edge of either area where we know that City are dangerous. However, I think one thing that Leicester didn't do was provide any real attacking threat. And
mm,
so this is the tricky thing with City. I think if you sit off completely, they are always going to find a way to score
yeah.
because you can defend perfectly and then Kevin De Bruyne whips in a free kick from somewhere that looks impossible to score
Yeah.
from.
Mm,
So we've got to provide some level of attacking threat because otherwise the City are too good to
mm.
see out a 0-0 draw. I just don't think we'd see it. It's going to be tough, isn't it, JK? I mean, they are exceptional.
Yeah.
But maybe with our intensity, with Polina and Reed sat in front of that back four, I think we cause them problems. I don't think we'll get run over,
Mm.
but ultimately, I don't think anyone's expecting anything from this game.
Marco Silva has already had you know, he's already played the Pep Guardiola team last season, and we saw us fly into a 1-0 lead after 4 minutes and then, pegged back after 90 seconds of play. And I would just wonder now with the players that we do have and threats, it's not like we're going to sit two banks of four and sort of soak up pressure. I think we will sort of try and find ways to counter and to create. And I'm just wondering whether we're going to give them a tough game. We either play like that and get absolutely thrashed because they play us and they find holes in our team and pick us apart, or we're going to score maybe one or two and cause them some problems. Crystal Palace flew into a 2-goal lead at the Etihad, still ended up losing the game. And their goals came from one came from a set piece. I seem to remember with Joachim Andersen. So there's a chance. There's a chance, and I wonder, Mitrovic dropping deep, wingers flying forward, Paulinho and Reed sort of chasing down everything. You never know.
It's not a bad time to play them either. When you take into account you've got the World Cup starting just a couple of weeks after we play them, and also I think that it's quite a good time to play them because we get that break. Any negative result isn't something that completely breaks up a good run of form. We're 4 unbeaten now.
Mm-hmm.
We assume we lose at the Etihad, but it's okay because once we come back, we play United and then we've got a month and a bit off until our next game, and it sort of gets out of the system, it's gone. Whereas, if this had come in the middle of this bit of run of form, if say after the Villa game, I think that's a worse time to play a team like City who can maybe, really damage confidence levels. So all in all, I think we'll be okay. I don't think we'll get disgraced, hopefully. And with our intensity, and this is probably the best way to hurt City, I think we'll cause them problems. And I will likely get some praise. I think we got some praise after we played them in the FA Cup, and I will expect after the game, we'll most likely hear Pep Guardiola saying, "Oh, Fulham are a good team. They can cause you problems. Their intensity was good." But I think that will probably come after a 2 or 3-0 loss.
Damage limitations always with City away, but every couple of years they do have a very shocking home defeat to a mid-table bottom half Premier League team, and it could be us. Like genuinely, it would not surprise me if we went there and got something. It really wouldn't. It really wouldn't.
I think we know we can score goals, and like we've got goals in our team, and we've also got the players now to. I think previously when we've gone there, when you look at our options out wide, especially, you need pace to hurt City because you can only hurt them in transition. We're not going to be able to unpick that City defense, I don't think, by playing up from the back and holding onto the ball. We're going to have to hurt them in transitions. We're going to have to hurt them quickly, and we've got the players in our team to do that. Andres Pereira, you've got Dan James, who I think we might see a little bit of in this game. Harry Wilson now on the way back. And then you've got the intelligence of Willian and the physical presence of Mitro. I think we've got enough in attack to cause them problems. It's just whether we can keep them out at the other end.
Hopefully, we get something from there. It'll be great. I feel like we can get something from United. The confidence is high. It's high. Final question: how are you feeling? 7th in the table, still not getting the plaudits from the media that we rightly deserve, but we'll just quietly go about our business. I thought yesterday was a very, very good performance. Just missing that one goal that would have taken us to 21 points would have been insane. But 19 from 13, you cannot complain.
I'm so happy. I'm loving it as well. It's just so nice to see. We've waited so long for this, and to see us playing like this in the Premier League. Like I said to you, like you take a 0-0 draw yesterday, and we all come away disappointed. But it's hard to remember before the season when the last time we've gone out and dominated games like that in the Premier League before this season, because we weren't doing it very much. We were very much a negative side, and I think we found a really nice balance, and Marco deserves a lot of credit because we've adapted. We're not the same team we were last season, and it's just been so nice not to have to hear the same old tropes being rung out by the media. Yes, we're being slightly ignored, but that's probably the best sign, because I think everyone was waiting for us to have a shocker again, and they were ready to jump on it. And because we're not, they don't quite know what to say. And that's nice in a way. And I think we will get our plaudits eventually. And there are some trickling through at the moment that you do see praise, but it's not widespread enough yet. I think we deserve a lot more credit than we're getting.
If Graham Potter was still at Brighton right now, he'd be my so far manager of the season. I think realistically, you have to give it so far to Mikel Arteta, but Marco Silva's a close second. Surely.
Yeah, no, I think it's completely fair. And you look at there was a lot of stuff going around before the game about sort of resources in terms of spend and how that's translated to points. And we've done exceptionally with what you would classify as limited resources compared to the rest of the league. And yeah, Mikel Arteta, likely given what he's done with that Arsenal side, has to be number one at the moment, but he's not far ahead of Marco, because it translates. If people were expecting Arsenal to be 5th or 6th going into this season, and now they're in a title challenge, they are. Whereas people were expecting Fulham to be 18th and we're 7th, that difference is equitable. I think there's a similar level of improvements that both managers have brought compared to what was expected.
Shahid Khan was there. Tony Khan was there yesterday. The scarves are out. It's just a great feel-good factor around the club at the moment. And look, whatever happens in the next 2 games, just remember the path we've been on so far this season and the level of expectation that we had going into the season. Let's not forget, me and Joe were sitting on the Jack and Joe show, exasperated about lack of centre-back signings before Liverpool. And who would have known what's been happening so far? It's not done yet. We're not safe by any stretch of the imagination. But so far, it's a fantastic start from Fulham. Dan, thanks so much for being here on Quick Take.
Always a pleasure to join you, JK. Thank you.
Absolutely brilliant stuff from Fulham. Despite not getting the result yesterday, I feel like everyone is in a good mood. And it's just good to see, because we haven't seen this sort of stuff since the days of Clint Dempsey, Brian Ruiz, and Andy Johnson, Bobby Zamora. It's amazing. It's amazing. Any final words?
As you said, keep things in perspective. If we go out and lose the next 2 games before the World Cup, we've put ourselves in a position where we can afford to. And so these are teams that we shouldn't be expecting to beat, and ultimately teams we shouldn't be expecting to take anything off, given the caliber of player and the resources they've got. But it shouldn't dampen the spirits at all, because we're in a great space. And when we come back from the World Cup, we've got a run of winnable fixtures. And, I completely trust that Marco Silva will have us working hard through that World Cup break, and we'll come out just as strongly come December 26th.
We're guaranteed now not to be in the relegation zone during the World Cup, which was something that, I just was like praying that we're not in, because it's just such a dampener on obviously an exciting, whatever you think of the World Cup, it's a World Cup. It's going to be fireworks at some point. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. We'll see you on Wednesday for the Jack and Joe show. The podcast will be out tomorrow. And yeah, just enjoy your Sunday and come on Fulham.